Hello and welcome to our webinar, Prompting AI for Better User Test Task. So cool to have you all here. I'm Paula Suessmeir, Product Marketing Specialist at Userbrain, and with me is Stefan Rössler, Head of Product and co-founder of Userbrain. And yeah, today we want to talk about user tests, of course, and user test tasks and insights. And yeah, in our chat already, we have Jonathan, Head of Customer Success. He will support us in the chat. So maybe if you want, just type in the chat where you're from. It's always interesting to know where in the world you are. And yeah, welcome everyone. Really, really cool to have you here for another insightful session. Okay, nice. From Tampa, Arizona, Oregon, also the United States. Cool. Yeah, I'm based in Spain and Stefan is based in Austria. So I think we can already say we are all over the world, which is pretty cool. Also, Thomas from Austria, pretty cool. Yeah, so here at Userbrain, we want to make unmoderated user testing as fast as easy as possible. And it is fast and easy, and this is possible. Okay, we also have from Annette from Munich and Anna from Berlin. Cool to see you here. Just maybe quickly in the beginning, you all already found the chat. And next to the chat tab, we have the questions tab. So whenever you have a question, it would be cool to write your question just like in the questions tab, like right next to the chat tab. And in the end, we will answer all of these questions, and then we have them all in there. That would be really cool. And yeah, to start, we would be really interested to know what your experience is with user testing. So I will just publish a poll. And next to the question tab, you have the apps. And when you click on the three dots, you can see the poll. And I will publish the poll right now. So yeah, we would be interested in what's your experience with user testing. Yeah, so it would be cool if you could answer that quickly. And yeah, that's always like pretty cool to know for us. And yeah, again, any questions, just drop them in the questions tab. And yeah, what is today actually about? Mostly don't overthink it. We people tend to overthink things, and yeah, just don't overthink it and just start with user testing. And with this, I will give over to Stefan, and yeah, and he will tell you more about this and how easy this is.
Thank you, Paula, and hi everyone. Thank you all for joining. Today we're going to have a bit of a, let's say, an kind of an expert session in a sense that it is very specific. So as you've seen in the title, it's about better user test tasks. So I'm pretty sure today we only have people joining who are really interested in creating tests and who probably, we'll see in the pause later, who have some experience with this. And as Paula said, and I think it's an important point, at least for me personally also, this part of overthinking it. Because even if you have a lot of experience with user testing, like I ran my first user test, I did the calculation recently, almost 20 years ago. It's a very long time. And still every time I'm in the process of setting up a new test, it's like, oh, it's this big project. You know, you don't really know where to start. It's something like, oh, well, let maybe do this later, do something easier or simpler first. And some of you probably already know Userbrain, have tried the tool, and you can confirm that it's really fast and easy, as Paula mentioned, if you just go in and you use this AI task creation thing. So today what we really want to talk about is how you can adapt the prompt you're using within Userbrain, the way you're instructing the AI in Userbrain. How can you do that to get that kind of insights that you really want, that your team is interested in, that your stakeholders are interested in. So I think what I'm going to do now is I just start sharing my screen. So just a second, go here, select the right one. And then you should see the Userbrain dashboard with all the tests that we had created over the last few webinars and everything. So that's just an index of some tests. And what we're going to do here is create a new one. And for the purpose of this demonstration, I will start with just a regular website test. And actually, the way I want to do it now is to show you 5 simple steps for how to start with a prompt, like the most basic one, to iterate over it, and improve your prompt. And then after these 5 steps, really end up with a very good and accurate test. I mean, the tests, they will all be good, that the AI is creating, good in the sense that they follow best practices and they shouldn't have any such leading questions and biased questions. So in that sense, they will all be good. But what I want to really help you with is to make them relevant. So you get the insights that your boss or your team or whoever are really interested in to know. And for the purpose of doing this, I'm just going to give this a name for today's webinars. I've already tried this before. So it's a playground for today. And what I'd like to do is really take our own website, userbrain.com. So we'll all be a little bit familiar with it, obviously. And I can tell you how we can use Userbrain to test our own product. And it's just an example. And we have a few other examples later that we can have a look at. But this one is just, to get us all started. So, and it's actually something that we kind of worked on in the last few weeks and discovered ourselves how to get the most out of prompting our own AI to get really good tests. So the first thing you can do, and I'm just going to show you this very quickly. So you have an overview. First step is to describe the product. So that is the very first thing. That is also what the UI is asking you for. When you look at this here, we see the tasks that you can create, and we choose the auto create with AI. And here it asks us to enter the website description. So that is really just the first and easiest thing to do. We go in here, and I prepared this before, so I just copied it in now. A simple tool for running quick user tests to get insights from real people. That's basically just a description of what it is. And we give it a try. We just see what happens. And I mean, again, some of you will be familiar with Userbrain already. You've probably tried this before. Some may see it for the first time. So I'm trying to make it not too boring for those who are familiar with, but still insightful enough for those who've never seen it. So we've created a task now, or a test task with the AI. And you see the first thing that the AI, and it will always do that, is to create what's called a homepage tour. If you read Steve Krug on user testing, usability testing, that's what he's recommending. Sometimes you don't want that in a test, and that's all right. You just delete it. But it's a good, by default, we do this kind of start. So you just ask people for their first impression. And then as we move on, you can see, and that's very important in any kind of user test, everyone who's familiar with user testing will notice, we start with a scenario, something realistic that can get people into the context and give them enough, motivation to go through the test. In this case, it's imagine you're a product manager who wants to improve a new app feature. You need to get a feedback from actual users to understand their experience and identify any issues. Please explore the site to find out how you can get a feedback from real users and what steps you need to take to start this process. Remember to think out loud, and so on and so forth. So this is just the entry point of the test. It's very important to have a good scenario here that gives people some kind of motivation to go through. Right after this, what the AI did here, it asked people, it's also a very common question, how difficult or easy was it for you to perform this task? It was very difficult, very easy. Then in this case, we have another task that's basically asking you to try the service without committing to a purchase. So basically just see what you can get for free. You start a free trial. And here in this case, the AI suggests you to use a temporary email provider. This is something that we're doing in tests by default because testers are not really, they don't have to use their own personal data. Sometimes they do because they want to and they might be interested in a service. But in the cases where they don't want to do it, they can just use these fake emails. So in order to confirm any emails that they need to confirm to actually continue with the sign-up process so that they don't get stuck throughout the test. So that's all prepared. That's all happening for you. And remember, all we did was just describing the product in a sentence. Now, the follow-up question, how difficult or easy was it to try the service, and so on and so forth. Then there's even another task here. Please try to set up a simple project to gather feedback on a website or app. So you see the onboarding process continues. And well, don't need to go into that too much detail. There's another follow-up question, how easy it was. A written response question here, something you'd like to change, or whatever it's asking. Yeah, a rating scale, how the overall experience, and so on and so forth. So this is a basic test, and everyone who's familiar with user testing can confirm, I hope so, at least that's our impression, that this is a really good test. This will be an effective user test. It will work. It will give you good test results and probably give you some good insights. But it's very general. It's not too specific. So what can we do now to improve this? And to do this, I start over with the whole process here. And here again, we have this description. And the next step that we're going to focus on, I'll just show you this very quickly, is to describe your research goal. That's usually something, when you do user testing, you usually have some sort of research goal. Some people might not refer to it as a research goal, but I think in the industry you can say that's the word the term you usually use for that. Okay, so changing back here. And in our case, what's something that's really important to us is our pricing for Userbrain, because we feel like the pricing is half, that's my personal opinion at least, is 50% of the product. If I look at a pricing page, I usually understand what the product is, I understand the offering, and if the pricing is right for me, and I don't even mean like the price range or whatever, but like it makes sense, the packages make sense, then it's a product that I'd sign up for, and otherwise it's something that I give a pass and try to find something else. So that's something that we're usually interested in. So I add this, we want to find out if potential customers can understand our pricing. So it's a very simple objective, but that is basically our research goal. With this in mind, or with this actually in the prompt, we just create tasks again and see what happens. As you can see, it's the homepage too again. We'll always do that. Just remove it if you're not interested in it. It gives you this scenario again. So a small business owner, you heard about this platform. So you will see we'll always do a few variations. It doesn't give you the same scenario every time, but it will give you always one that should be good for this kind of site. So it should work, but don't worry about it at the moment too much, because I'll show you later also how to adapt that. Then here, actually, I'm going to look through what's written here. See if you can find information about the cost of using this service. So you see, that's something that the AI already injected here, based on that I told it that, we're really interested in seeing if people understand the pricing. So it injected that in the first task already. Then it asked this follow-up question: how easy or difficult was it to find the pricing information? And that's actually really nice here. Now that you've found the pricing details, imagine you have a budget of $200 per month for gathering user feedback. Determine if the service fits within your budget and what plan would be the most suitable for you. So that's actually what I'm interested in, because for people to look at a pricing page and give us their opinions, that's nice. It is useful, but it's not really user testing or usability testing in that sense. So we need a specific scenario. We need some examples, or some example is not the right word, but it's like when you're testing a booking website, you don't just want to tell people, well, find a nice holiday. You give them like, this is your budget, this is the time you want to fly, maybe some more information, so it becomes specific. In this case, it gives you the $200 per month, which is very nice. And then they can go through this, see which pricing they like. How well do you think the pricing options are explained? Not well at all, very well. Well, I'm not even sure if the phrasing of this question is perfect, but well, we'll go with it for now. Then it asks you something, is there something you'd like to change? How likely are you to consider using this service based on the pricing information provided? So you can see, based on our research goal, the AI still created a similar kind of test, because an unmoderated user test is always the same in a way that people get in there and they need a scenario and they're going to get going, and there's going to be a sequence of tasks with some follow-up questions, either for the individual tasks or for the test overall. So that is always the same kind of formula. But in this case, it's very much geared towards the pricing. So that's that. And that's nice already, I believe. And of course, you can, adjust your own goal, and you can set your own goals, and you can be as specific as you want. But that was just to showcase this. Then I'm going to show you the third step for how to improve this prompt to get better insights. And that is to describe a typical use case or scenario. And that is something, as you see, like the AI has created the use case for us. Close this again. It has created a scenario. It said you're a product manager or something, but maybe that is not really the scenario that, you know, is the one that is most likely for your product or for the site you're testing. Maybe the team says, well, actually, you know, in our case, people are really coming from this and that background, and that is really their scenario. That's their use case. That's what they usually want to do. Like in our case, everyone who, I'd say, researched user testing, they usually know two things. The first thing is there seems to be a distinction between moderated user testing and unmoderated user testing. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is usually, and you need to test with 5 people. And there's a lot of debate about it. And, you know, people misunderstand this sometimes, what it actually means. But anyway, testing with 5 people is something that is very typical. So we say like a typical use case would be to run one test with 5 users. We'd like to know what plan people choose for that scenario. So you can see we instruct a little bit further this third step by giving it this realistic situation that we think, or that we kind of observed in other data, wherever, is important for us. Okay, I've done this. Create tasks again. Homepage tour. Here gives you, so again, you're a product manager, small tech company this time. You want to get a feedback for a new feature. Please explore the site to find out how you can get a feedback from a group of 5 people. When you're ready, see if you can find an option to start this process without actually beginning it. How difficult or easy was it to find the information you needed to get a feedback from 5 people? So you can see it gets this in now. Now imagine you consider, please explore the pricing section to find out which plan would be suitable for running a single feedback session with 5 participants. So you can see it's again the same formula, and the AI will make sure, because we've trained it with lots of examples that we think are really good examples, it will always create you a meaningful user test. Meaningful, I mean an effective user test that should be working really well. It follows all the best practices, and it just puts in these pieces of information that you're interested in into this kind of structure and works with that. So this is how you kind of refine it. And, you know, I'm just giving you this simple example because you can extrapolate from that what it will mean for your own tests, I suppose. So you can see that's how the AI is doing that. It's applying it, and so on and so forth. So that was the third step for how to do all of this. And then there's another, a fourth step that you can do. I'm just going to show you this quickly. Again, just going to look at this because it's 5 simple steps, but the steps are so simple. I'm just going to repeat them quickly. First, you just describe the product. Then you describe your research goals. So is there anything specific that you're actually interested in? Third thing is you describe a typical use case to make it as realistic as possible. And the fourth step is quite easy one, actually. You just add anything else you'd like to know. You know, and that's the really interesting thing. You will see it now. It doesn't even matter how you phrase this now, because you've got a really good test anyway, based on all the examples that we taught our AI and how it's set up in general. Then you've described the product really well. Or it doesn't even have to be well. A sentence is enough, and the AI will also know something about indexed websites, and so it will have some additional information, but that helps, obviously, the product description, the research goal, so it knows exactly what you're interested in, and the typical use case to make it relevant. And now you just add whatever else you'd like to know. And again, I've just prepared a sentence over here. I'm gonna copy it over quickly, and it just says, oh, and I'd really love to know from people if they have conducted user tests on other platforms before already, and maybe how they think Userbrain compares to other tools. So it's just something else I'd like to know. You could even enter here, well, and actually our boss really loves rating scales, and he or she would really like to know how people, you know, how likely they are to recommend the product, whatever it is, you know, and you could just add that in here, and the AI will incorporate that into the test. So again, we're creating the tasks. Go through this quickly. In this case, it tells you, imagine you're working on a project and need feedback from a group of people to improve your product. You heard about this platform, Feedback from a small group of people. How difficult or easy was it to understand the options well? So yeah, now imagine you want to gather the 5 people for your project. So that's that. And remember, what I added now as a last thing was that we'd like to know if people have done something like this before. So, okay. Let's see how the AI incorporated this time. Have you used other platforms to get a feedback from users before? Yes, no. So that's a very simple way of doing it. As you try to do this task creation more often, you will see there's a bit of variation. So sometimes the AI, for example, would ask, have you tried this in other platforms before? And it'll give you an array of answers like, yes, very often, yes, occasionally, or, something like this. So there's always a little bit of possibility of how it will actually incorporate it. There's a system that it's using, so it should always be good and following guidelines and best practices, but there's a bit of variance. If you've used other platforms before, how does this site compare to those? Please write down keywords or short phrases. And that is actually the nice way, and I'm just mentioning this quickly. In the prompt, you don't really have to worry about writing it in a very unbiased way, or in a way that it's not leading users or whatever. You don't have to do this. You just talk to it the way you would talk to, I don't know, some expert coming in who is running user tests for you, and you just tell those people what you're interested in. And then you create the test, and the AI will take care that this test is actually working. And again, if you are a senior US user testing person, I don't know if that's a good term, but someone who is experienced with this and done it a lot, I think you will confirm that this is a pretty solid user test, considering that all we did so far was just writing what we want and pressing a button. And if you're not too experienced with user testing, that's a good thing really about it. Don't worry about it, because we got you covered. It is a good test. So you will see the latest when you order the testers and you get the results. So this one is working pretty well. And the reason I'm saying this is, as I scroll back up here, what we discovered more and more lately in the last, let's say, year or maybe even couple of years for some early adopters, is that many of our customers, there are people who are, signing up to Userbrain who will be, let's say, head of products or maybe product manager or, user researcher. But it are people who say, you know what, user testing is actually, it's really important. We need to do it, and we'd love to do the unmoderated testing you're doing with Userbrain, because it's so efficient and it really works well. But I personally don't have the time to do it. And that's key for us, because as a user researcher, this is a nice feature. It helps you get started, and it gives you a bit of it helps you with the blank page syndrome and everything. So you get it going. And I'm using it myself, although I've created hundreds, probably thousands of user tests. So it's nice, but it's really, really valuable if you say, but actually, I, as a user researcher or product manager, whatever, I have a team of designers. I have a team of developers. I have a team maybe with marketing people, and I have a team, and I want them to do their own testing. But you know what? They are not really experts. They're usually not running user tests regularly. And I don't have the time to kind of monitor everything they're doing. And I don't have the time to help them setting up. I don't have the time to do it. And in this case, this comes in really handy. So it becomes from a nice to have and a really nice feature to something that's vital and that customers can just, use. And the team can go in, create their own tests, just prompt the AI the way I just told you there, and get these tests that will give you good results. And I think that's where the power of this really lies. So, okay, I'm just hyping our own product here. So I switch over to the 5 simple steps again. First thing again was to describe the product. Then we describe the research goal, whatever detail you want to describe it. A typical use case, if the one that the AI is creating by itself is not the one where you say like, well, that's really good, because sometimes you want a good use case also to get buy-in from stakeholders, because if they look at the test and then they say, well, that's not a realistic scenario. So you just give it to it, the AI will use it. Then you add anything else you'd like to know. And the 5th step, and that's very important, also another very, very easy one really, is you run a quick test and you fine tune as needed. And when I say you run a quick test, what I really want you to do, and that's always the suggestion, that's always something that I think you should be doing, is before you order real people to go and do the test, you just take it yourself, because this is the best way for you to determine how the flow of the test really works, if it's if it's actually working well. And sometimes I look at this, and I even use the preview function within Userbrain or whatever. I'm just going to save this test now so it can show you what I mean. I use this preview function, but the way the preview works here is really just shows you the steps. So you get a little bit of a feeling of how this works, but this is not really the user experience. So you can kind of like simulate how it might be to do the test, but to really do it, what you want to do is go here, get testers, bring your own testers, this kind of option here. You enable this invite link and you copy the link and you basically just open it in another tab and you take the test yourself. Then you will see if there are any rough edges somewhere, if there's something you'd like to change, and then you can go into the test again and make the changes. So yeah, that's pretty much it. What I'm going to do here quickly now is I just for the fun of it, I think I just ordered 2 testers while we're at it, so you can see how this works also, and maybe we get some results by the end of the session. But that was pretty much the introduction that I wanted to show you. So again, I'm going to open this very quickly. There are these 5 simple steps to better AI-powered user test insights, and I have the word user test insights here because what I really mean is you will know what you want to know, what you want to find out, and your team will have some questions that you want to find out. And this will not happen if you only do the first step, which is to describe the product. It might happen, it might get lucky, but to really refine it, you want to do the second step as well, which is define your research goal. The third step, describe a typical use case and scenario, one for testers to, have something realistic and also for your team to buy in. Then you just add anything else you'd like to know and really do it in that sequence that will work the best. And then once you did a trial test, you just fine-tune the whole thing as needed. And that's pretty much it. So that was the first example. I have lots of examples prepared here. We won't have time to go through all of them. But yeah, so just close this for now and hand over to Paula for a short intermission.
Okay, perfect, Stefan. That was actually pretty interesting. I really like that you can just describe what you want to test and like basically talk like you would talk to a colleague or so, or what you want to have like coming out of the test. This is like pretty cool. And yeah, I'm pretty sure, or I know the same way it's working, like for example, for an e-commerce site or a travel site or any other site. Yeah, so I think it would be pretty interesting if we do another example with an e-commerce site. And to all of you who are here with us in our webinar right now, what's actually one thing you would like to know? Like, what do you think could be a cool research goal for an e-commerce site? Or is there anything else you think that would be great to know when testing an e-commerce site? So please feel free to just put it in the chat. And meanwhile, Stefan, we already have 2 questions that would be interesting for now. So Annette is asking, is the default language English and can it be changed to German?
I just show this very quickly. When you go here, you see like the default language, you can say is English, but you can use German and Spanish. So those would be the 3 languages that work. So yeah, the short answer to the question is you can change it to German. Maybe we try this. Just go for userbrain.com, why not? Ein einfacher User Testing Service für schnelle Testergebnisse. I don't know. Ergebnisse. Let's see what happens. Or maybe just this. Can I? Do you see the screen? You don't see it full screen, do you?
I will make it full screen. Give me 1 second. Skip this one and then now we have it full screen.
So here we did a German task, and then you can see again, it has the homepage tool only in German. Bitte denken Sie daran, während des Tests laut mitzudenken. Stellen Sie sich vor, Sie sind ein freiberuflicher Designer. So yeah, you can see it just works the same way in German. Gives you the German labels for rating scales and so on and so forth. So yeah.
So yeah, actually it's German, Spanish, or English. You can preset this when starting the test. And there's another question, I think that's interesting, from Thomas. Does your AI to remember what you have already changed and reflected when you do an auto create?
That is a fantastic question. And it was something that we were obviously thinking about because it would be nice to create it this way. But we haven't included this at the moment yet because maybe I can talk about this a little bit for a couple of minutes, some ideas that we have for how the AI tool might work in the future, the auto creation. But in this case, the AI doesn't remember any things or doesn't know the things that you've changed down there. So if you change something here, maybe let's give it a try. One more question. And the way we designed the user interface here, you can see we have the start over button. That's why we've created this process like this. So it actually asks you, you sure you want to start over? Your current task will be deleted. This action cannot be undone. Do you want to proceed? So right now, we really have this. That's why we have this message here. If you do that now, it's going to be deleted. So that's how it works at the moment. So it doesn't remember anything you do down there. You might get away by saying, I'm going to do this now, start over, by adding something here that you'd like to ask a fifth question for the homepage too, and then it might add it to it. But that's a bit experimental. So the way it really works is you work on your prompt and you keep creating, and it creates a new one and a new one and a new one, which is again why we have this start over button here that will really set you back to the beginning and do it all again. So that's how we have implemented it right now. The reason we do this is we really like simple things and simple things that work, which is, why the AI task creation works the way it works. But we have a more complex solution on our mind, and the more complex solution would be you are in the process of creating a test. Maybe I just use a template here or whatever, or you've created your own thing. And what we really want to do in the future is you maybe add something like, I want to make a multiple choice question, and you write something here, and the DI will help you within the context and tell you right now, well, actually, this is a bit biased how you're asking here. Do this instead. So that's a bit of a glimpse in the future of something that we have on our mind for the future. And this is how, we envision that things will work once you do that. Because if the AI goes through the whole thing again, I don't know, we thought that it's best for it to just start all over again from blank slate and do this really, like this. And again, the idea we have moving forward is that it will help you in context. You don't even need to change the prompt again, but it will tell you, well, that's actually, not a good answer, or this is a leading question. And yeah, that's what we're envisioning for the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Stefan. I hope we could answer your questions here. And yeah, I would really love to do an example with e-commerce, Stefan. So maybe we just get started with a new test, and maybe we switch it back to English in the language. Might be more understandable. Yeah, so still, if you have like a really cool research goal in mind, just write it in the chat and we will use it. And yeah, we could also like try you to use like 2 or 3 different research goals to show you this example. If you don't have anything in mind, don't worry, we will come up with something. We have a lot in mind. Yeah, and then I would say we just start with the next user test, with the tasks. And yeah, in the meantime, if you have anything in mind, just put it in the chat and we will prompt it accordingly.
All right, so just gonna go there quickly. It's just an e-commerce website that I chose. It's called allbirds.com, and it's as good as any example, but we're just using it because e-commerce is a very typical use case for user testing, as most of you probably know, because the return on investment is quite high if you have a good user experience on your site. So in this case, the description of this website would just be, it's an online store that sells eco-friendly shoes and apparel. I forgot again. I checked just earlier how to pronounce the word. Now I forgot it, but I think it's apparel. I hope. Anyway, so we give it this basic description, and you can see the AI is again creating a scenario. Imagine you're looking to update your wardrobe with sustainable and environmentally friendly options. You've heard about this brand that offers such products and want to explore what they have to offer. Please explore the site to find out more about the types of products available and how they align with your values. When you're ready, see if you can find an option to learn more about the sustainability practices. Remember to think out loud. So it's a good scenario. It's quite general, but that's what we wanted, actually, because we didn't really specify much more than this. How difficult or easy was it to find information about sustainability? Of course, it focuses on sustainability now because I gave it a short description and it said eco-friendly shoes and apparel. So it's going to be important for the AI in this case. So it gives you another good task where you need to compare at least 3 different options of shoes and so on and so forth. In this case, put it in the shopping cart, go through the checkout process before entering actual payment data. So very typical for an unmoderated user test, and something that, again, will work quite well if you do it. So you can see how this works. Then we go here again. So start all over. It has this description already here. And then we can describe the research goal, which maybe you have something in mind, something that you would like to see how the AI incorporates it. If you have some idea, for a research goal or for a typical use case or for anything else you'd like to know, just write it in the chat and I pick it up from there. In the meanwhile, not to waste too much or not to take too long, I just paste in something that I've prepared here, which is, we want to understand if first-time visitors can easily find a shoe that fits their style and needs. So that's something that we're really interested in. We create the tasks again. And then you will see, imagine you're looking for a new pair of shoes that are both stylish and environmentally friendly. You want something that you can wear casually that aligns with your values of sustainability. So again, I asked for something that fits their style and needs. So you can see it's stylish. Please explore the site to find a pair of shoes that meet your criteria. Compare at least 3 different options. Decide which ones you would consider purchasing. How difficult or easy was it to find a pair of shoes that fit your style and needs? So this is how it actually incorporated it here. Which options did you use to find the right shoes? So that's something that's typical for e-commerce websites, to find out how people were actually searching or finding the information. Did they use filters or the navigation or the search and so on? And again, put it in the shopping cart, check out some follow-up questions. So that is that. I'm just going to start over again. And in this case now, if you remember, the third step was to a typical use case. Like, for example, let's imagine in our e-commerce site, what we're really interested in is for people to sell them shoes that they use for daily use. Not just some, kind of nice shoes that they wear like 2 times a year, but something they would use daily. So then we can describe this here. Imagine you're looking for a comfortable, stylish pair of sneakers for daily wear. You care about sustainability, but don't know this brand yet. It's just something, again, just pick whatever kind of use case that you think makes the most sense for your own page. And also maybe if you have something on mind that you would like to just give it a try here, just write it in the chat. We can try it, and whether it's an idea for this e-commerce website or even a website that you would like to see, how this task creation works and how the iteration of the prompt works, how to improve this. Just put it in the chat somewhere. In the meantime, I go through this here. So you're searching for a comfortable pair of sneakers for everyday use. You're interested in products and environment. So basically, you can see it is quite straightforward how it works, because you can tell the AI all the things that you're interested in, and it will just incorporate it in a good scenario, in good tasks, in good follow-up questions, without just asking something blindly like, what are the best shoes for everyday use or whatever. So it knows that, well, this is something that I really need to put in the scenario, and I can incorporate it like this. And so you don't have to worry about how you're actually phrasing it in your prompt. Okay, and then I give you the 4th step again, which would be to add anything else that you'd like to know. And in this case, something that's typical for, I'd say for e-commerce is that we want to find out how easy people find it to understand sizing, materials, and return options, which is very important. So we just added this, recreate the tasks, and then we'll probably not have much done here. It asks you how difficult it was to find a pair of sneakers, so it incorporates this. Please try to find information about the sizing, the materials used, and the return options for the sneakers you select. Stop once you get all the information. So in this case, you put all into one task. Sometimes you might break it up in individual tasks, but you see it's all in there, and it's something that will work. If you just try it like this, it should be working all right, and you should get some good results. This is basically how all of this looks like. Again, the fifth step would be for you to try it again, and then you might change something here. You might add a question in here where you say, well, we're also interested in this or that. So this is how you can do your final changes here. You can do some updates here. And that's pretty much it. And as Thomas asked earlier about whether the AI tool remembers anything, if you reprompt it again, no, it doesn't. So it will then create a new test all over again. What you can do, however, is, of course, you go here and say, but this is a really good test. I don't want to lose it. So what you can do is you just save it and close it. You don't do much with it, but it will be here as a draft. So you can have it for reference, and you just create a new test where you maybe work on the prompt, and then you can refine a little bit, can see what happens. And then you may, I don't know, you could open 2 tabs or whatever, and do some copy and pasting around, which is how you can kind of get this experience of the AI remembering what you're doing, kind of thing. So yes, that is pretty much it. I have a few more examples, but I would just be curious. I see that Thomas is typing. If any one of you has anything on mind that you would like to try out here, and or if you have any questions, something that we can talk about, because the thing about these webinars is really we're a small group of people here coming all together, taking our time to actually do this together instead of just watching a recording. So the most important thing for us really is to get a kind of conversation going. So if there's anything on your mind, and even if it's something that you think like, well, it's a stupid question or whatever it is, just go for it. So we can have a little bit of a back and forth and maybe discover something interesting together.
Yeah, okay. I see Thomas is writing in the chat. It would be amazing if you could really ask the AI to recreate specific tasks based on a separate prompt.
It would be amazing if you could really ask the AI, really, I mean like really asking, not just do this where you create a new test, you have to create specific tasks based on a separate prompt. Yeah. It's an interesting point, and again, this is really what we're always trying to do, is to get a simple version of something and something that's working and that's reliable. So that is something that we would launch. In the background, of course, we're always exploring different ways of how to improve all of this, and this more iterative kind of working, where you don't just iterate on the prompt, but you actually iterate with the AI on something existing, is a very interesting idea. So if you have some more information on this, Thomas, or something that you have in mind, or anyone else who wants to join us, it would be awesome to hear about this and to discuss it a little bit. But it's definitely something that I'm going to take away from this webinar also, because that's for us so interesting about these webinars, because we get to engage with people who are using Userbrain or who are potentially using it, and then just learn how people think about this and what would be good ideas for us to focus on in the future. But yeah, it's a very interesting point.
In the meanwhile, now that you've seen how the audio create your task with AI is working, I prepared another little poll, so it would be great if you could answer it. Like, it would be, how do you rate auto create your tasks? I just published it, and yeah, you can see it in the polls tab when you click on the 3 dots on above the apps, and could just answer the question, because of course we think it's pretty great, but we also want you to find it like super valuable, and yeah, that's why we're always interested in questions like that. And yeah, so basically, Stefan, with 4 short sentences, you can run a pretty solid user test.
Yeah, it's It's again, the really valuable thing about it is if you have a group of people who you would like to do some unmoderated testing, then this comes in really handy, because as you've seen, it delivers quite reliable results and something that will be effective when you run an unmoderated test with it. And it's just a bit of an insight that I'd like to share with everyone, and maybe you can confirm this, or maybe you say, well, it's different in our situation. But something that we're really witnessing is that there are some very experienced UX people inside companies, but those people don't have the time and resources anymore to run a lot of unmoderated user tests themselves, because there's so many other things that need to be done, from qualitative interviews to, all sorts of stuff. And you might be the only person doing all of this. And if you are, you can run user tests very efficiently with Userbrain this way, as you just saw. You can create the tests quite quickly. And then as you maybe see here on the screen, there's some people testing already, and maybe they finish in time that we can even look at the results. The AI will analyze the results and give you a summary of all the findings. So it will help you personally to do things in a very short amount of time. But what I think is really valuable is that it gives the people inside your team, the developers, the designers, a tool into their hands that they can actually use themselves and they can work with. And yeah, they can get their own results, because usually my experience after many, many years also working in the service industry in terms of, as an agency kind of thing, where you go to clients and you do user testing for them, is that it's very hard sometimes to get buy-in for the findings. So you might find some really interesting stuff in user tests, but people might not buy into it. And of course, you can show them clips and all these sorts of things, and it's very powerful to see people struggling. But the thing is, if the designer or developer, if they haven't really run the test themselves, it's sometimes almost like, oh no, user testing. Basically, all it uncovers is mistakes that we've made. So they're a bit reserved in general. Not everyone, not all the teams are like this, but that's something that can happen. And it doesn't happen at all if people run their own tests. So our experience is, if someone is running his or her own test, it is like, well, there is no need to convince anyone about anything. People can just, see things for themselves, explore them themselves, try new things, and then, maybe run a new round of testing and just, completely automate the whole process, so that the more seasoned UX people in the company who might have, even more important things to do are not, stuck on helping their team with setting up simple unmoderated tests.
There's another pretty interesting question from Thomas. Is the auto-create feature also trained for creating moderated user tests?
Mm-hmm. So the short answer is no. It's not doing this at all. I mean, of course, you can create a test with Userbrain, and you can use it as a script for a moderated test if you do some moderated testing. But the focus of Userbrain is actually only on unmoderated testing. So we're not doing any moderated tests. There's a few reasons for this, but the summary is like, Userbrain is really for these unmoderated tests, because the whole idea is you're busy professional. You have many things to do, you have a lot of things to do, and moderated testing is something that we find people tend to not end up doing that much, especially once they run an unmoderated test and find out, well, actually, it gives us 80% of the return with only 20% of an investment kind of thing. So it's much quicker and faster, and it still gives us, all the good results. And also we kind of, our own experience was, in the first few years of our agency, we were running some moderated tests, and it just took forever, cost a lot of money, and the results were not better than unmoderated tests. So basically, I don't want to say we're not believing in moderated testing, because of course there's value in it. And it's not that we don't have to believe in anything that's not inside our product. But the idea with Userbrain is it is a laser focused on this kind of testing, and it works perfectly for this. But again, you can kind of use these, copy and paste it in a Word document or wherever, and use it for moderated tests, or something that we see people actually doing, which is a very nice idea. You create the tests inside here, and then you share your link. When you go here, you share this link with a person via Zoom. So you kind of moderate a session with them when you in a Zoom call, but they will open the test in their own browser and go through these instructions. So it is moderated in a sense where they can actually look at the instructions on their own screen, and you can do some moderation while you're doing it. That's of course completely possible. But yeah, I hope that answers the question. I'm just thinking as I'm answering the question, how much there's really a difference, because usually unmoderated and moderated testing are, I'd say it's basically the same thing from the kind of tasks you want. It's just with unmoderated testing, you want to make the tasks bulletproof, because if someone gets lost, they're just lost. You don't have a moderator or a facilitator to bring them back. But in general, it's the same thing anyway. So I'm kind of revising my answer here, or changing it to actually you can do it. It's just that you can't run moderated user tests within Userbrain, only Userbrain. So you would need a tool like Zoom and couple the two and then do it like this. So yeah.
Okay, cool, Stefan. Thank you so much. For the ones who are not having a Userbrain account yet and want to try it for moderated or unmoderated user testing, as we just heard, you can just start your free trial with Userbrain, and you get 2 testers for free, and also have like 5 of your invite your own tester links. And now you've got the link to that. And Thomas is saying, I think moderated tests make sense if you explorative studies.
Absolutely. So explorative, I see he's typing again. But do explorative stuff. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I personally, I when I do moderated testing, I wouldn't do it anymore as a, back in the day we did it as a service, and it was a big surgery kind of thing. But what I love to do is make a scribble somewhere, have a quick prototype, and just put it in front of a person that's right next to me. It could be a friend, it could be anyone. It could be a colleague. And those kind of moderated tests I do all the time, actually. But in general, it's just, I find it's so difficult. You kind of need, but that's just me personally. You need to schedule with people. You need to meet at the exact time. If the person doesn't show up, it's like, what are we going to do now? But yeah, it doesn't take away anything from what Thomas is saying here. If you do an explorative study, especially if I understand explorative study in this context also correctly, especially with early prototypes, and you just want to see, what people think about it before you even show them a finished product, moderated testing is incredibly effective. And also, of course, if you mean explorative study in a way where, well, we just show them the page and then we'll explore as we go, see what they say, and then you can kind of react to that. So of course there's a lot of value in moderated testing, as there's a lot of value in interviews and those sorts of things. I mean, I personally am a big qualitative data fan, so I love interviews, and I also love doing, when you do a user interview with someone, that you do a combination of an interview where you show them a prototype and you turn it into a moderated testing session, and you do all at the same time, because I'm thinking it's so difficult to meet with a person at the right time, and to do the test and to get the right people to do that if you get the chance to do it, you want to do moderated test as well, not just ask them, a few things. But yeah, anyway, that's a good point. It is certainly valuable for these explorative studies. Yes.
Are there any more questions from your side, all of you who are taking part in our webinar right now? If so, then just put them in the questions tab or in the chat. And yeah, as we're almost at the end of this webinar, if you have any more questions, you can always reach out to us. support@userbrain.com. I will just type it in the chat. And yeah, if you have any more questions or thoughts or anything you wanna share with us, just let us know. And yeah, thank you all for coming today. Stefan, is there anything else you want to add to the session?
Well, actually, I don't know if you saw this on the small screen, just the first tester just finished the recording and was uploaded for the test that I started earlier for the Userbrain website. So I just wanted to show you maybe very quickly how that looks like when the tester comes in case you haven't seen it. And, of course, you can click this and you can watch the video. And then you will see that the AI has already made some observations here, made some notes and clips, and did some things, basically looking at the whole test and analyzing it, and just showing this very quickly now, because it just happened to be done the second you asked me the question, and then just navigate here quickly for the AI insights. So this is basically the results you're going to get at the end of the day based on your prompts and tasks, where you can see, okay, some positive feedback from the tester. There was a usability issue, difficult to determine the appropriate plan for gathering feedback due to unclear options. So that's not good, I guess. That's our own website, and she has some issues, but something we're going to look into. Some confusion, negative feedback, user behavior, and so on and so forth. So those are the results at the end of the day you will receive, just in case you're wondering or you haven't tried Userbrain yourself yet. And my suggestion, of course, would be to go in, play around it yourself, see how it works, use up the 2 free testers, look at the results and see, if it gives you the kind of insights that you and your team would like to get. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, I stopped the screen sharing.
Perfect. Then yeah, thank you so much, Stefan, for these insights on how to prompt AI for better user test tasks and insights, of course, because it's not just about the task, it's in the end about the insights we're getting from the user test, the insights we're going to share with the whole team, the insights that will help us to make our product better. And yeah, so if there are no more questions, just want to thank you all for participating in this webinar. And yeah, we will send out the replay, the recording to all of you. And yeah, have a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, wherever you are right now, what the time is. And see you soon. See you at the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks
Bye
for joining. Thanks for spending some time with us, and see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.